Execute episode 66.
Hello Internet and welcome to the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 66. That is right, we are here to execute Order 66 on our podcast. This very week we've got rules from Emperor Palpatine himself to continue with the show and bring you another podcast, even though we're all off. We're all celebrating Christmas and New Year. So Merry Christmas to everyone for this last weekend. Hope you had a great time with your friends, families. You managed to get some gaming in there and you enjoyed it on Stadia. But fear not, because we are here to take down the Jedi scum and bring you another podcast wrapping up a review of Stadia in the year. I'm joined once again by my lovely co-host, to my right, your left, my left, your right, the techie teacher on his techie time off from school. Hey. Still rebuilding an entire house. Tom, welcome back for this week. How are you doing?
See that since the last episode, my room has changed in quite a number of ways. We're getting there.
You've done so much in this last week.
Yes.
To flesh out the room. And below him, we have the man of many pixels returning once again, looking festive as ever still, Mr. Ritchie. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing quite well. My room hasn't changed a lot, although the Santa hat is now on the Christmas tree.
It's moved. It's fell off and landed on the Christmas tree.
Slight changes.
Of course, yeah. Slight subtle changes for our visual viewers out there on YouTube. We are recording this, of course, after last week's Christmas episode, so there will be some timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff that we're going to talk and joke about. Slightly different episode, as we mentioned last week, but we wanted to give you a consistent run of the show. So this is episode 66 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, coming to you just after Christmas, but before New Year, recorded last week for your viewing, listening pleasure. If you're not familiar with the channel, myself and my lovely co-host bring you a weekly Stadia roundup of all the gaming news that's going on in the world. For about an hour or so, we talk and discuss. And what we thought, recording this ahead of time, we would bring you is still a great show. Don't go anywhere. Still remember to like, click, subscribe, and share, and do all that magical stuff down below as we head into 2021. Because next year is going to be bigger and better than ever before. We've came along so much in this kind of last year in general, and we do have a great show. We're going to talk about our Stadia Game of the Year. It's a big discussion on that. We're going to talk about our Stadia in review. So we're actually going to look back, and gentlemen, I've gone into our show notes for the last 52 weeks and pulled out some of the hot topics. And I just wanted to run down and really talk about how far we've come and then how far Stadia's came. Because when you look back at some of our talking points across the last many months, it's just crazy to review and look at. So we'll be talking about that, and yeah, we're just going to have like kind of a general summary episode. So we will throw out some predictions and stuff, no doubt, because we are going to have to predict some of the news, like our January Pro games. But yeah, we'll get into that. But I think to start things off, we need to just, I think, take stock of what year we've had in general, and thank our lovely supporters as well out there. All of you lovely people who listen along, support us, you view us on YouTube, you subscribe, you share, you comment, more importantly, and our lovely patrons as well. So massive thank you, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to our amazing supporters who've looked after us throughout 2020. Let's be fair, it's been a very weird year in general. And we've had hundreds of you just get in touch with us, communicate through comment sections, Discord, Facebook, the general Stadia community, not just us in general, but we've all grown massively as a community over these last 12 months. And yeah, what has been a terrible year for everything else, one of the shining lights has certainly been Stadia in this community and growing from such a nutshell last year into what it is now. Yeah. But yeah, what I wanted to start off with, lads, is just a little look at some of the things we've done this past year, because it's quite a shocker. For the first point, we didn't have video at the start of 2020. We did episode 15, I think, kickstarted the year, and it was just a static image. So you watching on YouTube right now, it was just a still image. You just saw an image with Sounds of Stadia podcast and nothing else.
You just edit the image in just to kind of demonstrate it.
And we did this. I did this from my laptop. Yeah. And some editing audio and such, and I
had a 9-year-old PC.
Yeah, it's crazy. So another point is we've all bought new tech, whether that be cameras, Christmas trees, LED lights. Both me and Richie invested heavily in brand new PCs. I'd not had a new PC in many years, and even then, when I was a kid growing up, it was always just like I don't know, to play Age of Empires and do my homework. It was never a gaming rig or anything with any really substance behind it. So yeah, we've took the plunge.
Sure I know PC gaming was around when we were kids, but I don't think their concept of a gaming rig was around yet.
No.
I think there was definitely graphics cards and stuff, and there was definitely a lot of people gaming on PC, but I don't think the difference between the top end and the bottom end, I don't think it was like as astronomical as it is now.
No, I just got it to play like Sims and Age of Empires, Roller Coaster Tycoon. That was like kind of my focus point, and then everyone switched to laptops throughout like college and stuff like that because it's just, it made it easier. But yeah, we've all invested in like microphones. Tom, you spent a decent chunk on a new sexy camera as well, so we've all
lovely little thing here,
gone above and beyond. That's why it looks much sharper and clearer. Yeah. But yeah, we've all gone above and beyond to bring you better content, and hopefully you see that in our output as well. So going to video, we did that around episode 25, 26, I think. So we did a big chunk of this, just audio. And I think going video has helped us probably all grow a little bit in terms of camera presence and talking.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
And almost like come out of our shells now. I feel totally comfortable looking at the audience now and doing live streams.
Like, at the start of this year, I think because we were still quite young in what we were doing, is I still had, even when we weren't on camera, I'd come up here on a Sunday afternoon, like, and there would be a few nerves still. Now it's just like, sit down, let's go.
Get on with it. I think you're always nervous about what people are going to think about what you say and put out there, and that's the biggest thing for anyone who's looking into 2021 and thinking, I've been on the fence for Stadia, or even just like doing anything in general. I think all three of us would agree. Just do it. Just give it a go. If it doesn't work out, you've not lost anything.
You've got a phone, stick a DualShock in there, have at it. You've got a laptop, have a go with that. You don't need to actually buy anything. You can just use what you've got.
Direct streaming as well, right?
Yeah.
You don't even need that. You could just stream it straight away. But yeah, so aside from all the tech and ourselves, we've attended big things in the community. We've done 2 Stadia Super Saturday events in partnership with Stadia Source and Cloudy with a Chance of Games. Hundreds and hundreds of you joined, thousands in fact, have joined in across those days, and it's been wonderful to see and be a part of, and we're always looking forward to the next one. Tom,
hey, don't forget as well, we also did our our PUBG Content Creators Cup as well,
yes,
which was an absolute treat. That did.
We did.
Oh wow!
Hosted
we need
that.
To get on the next one.
We do. We need
to wait for Apex Legends to come across, and then we can do it.
Remember when that was a thing? Apex Legends definitely coming next week to Stadia. EA confirmed it. They're only bullshitting about taking Stadia off the press release, and no, it didn't come. They were true to their guns, which is crazy as well. We've done obviously plenty of Let's Plays. We wrapped up our Tomb Raider one only started in the February, gentlemen, which is crazy to think as well. Richie, you done Lost Words.
Wait, was this year that we did our first ever live stream?
Yeah, we did our first live episode at around episode 20, I think.
The Tomb Raider 1 and Farmville and Samurai Showdown.
Farmville? I haven't played Farmville on Stadia.
Farming Simulator. Was that this year? Or was it last?
No, it was last November. We went to Tom's to play that.
All right. Yeah.
But in terms of like live, we did obviously for the SSS event, we did our podcast live for the first time.
Yes, we did.
And if you remember, gentlemen, we pulled the plug on the whole stream. What happened? I can't even remember. Was it you knocked the microphone plug on internet?
It's my old microphone stand. Actually, that one there, for audio listeners, I'm pointing to it in my mirror. That felt a bit while holding Tom's microphone, and as we were trying to reassemble it, we needed to unplug the cable to the mic. Just the USB into the mic. We did that, and as I unpulled it, we didn't think anything would happen because it's just unplugging the microphone. The whole stream went down.
Yeah, for some reason it took the whole stream offline.
I
unplugging one cable.
No idea why. We unplugged the USB from a microphone.
Yeah.
On the microphone end.
I'm pretty sure we had something like 300 viewers at that point as well. It's like, forget this massive audience, unplug. Go on.
Yeah. Hey, but we did follow it up with some amazing, some amazing Trials Fusion gameplay as well.
We did. We did.
Trials Rising, sorry, not Trials Fusion. Trials Rising, and that went down. Once again, we had such a blast doing that, and that's when Richie had the infamous tattoo drawn on him.
He still got it, some would say. I've heard.
It was actually a tattoo.
straight
Yeah,
up
permanent.
laser etched onto his skin. But yeah, we obviously, Richie, you then picked up Lost Words. I've played through Monster Boy. We've got Guilt going, so we've brought you a good couple of Let's Play series as well throughout the course of the year, and they're all available to go check out if you've not done so. And it's actually interesting to go back and watch like just how we talk and play and act and behave kind of on stream, because again, it's all new to us. We've only started doing it this year. And I think lockdown has forced us all to do stuff individually as well, because before we all got together with you, Tom, and pretty much entrusted you to do everything and set it up, and we went from there. And we're all learning, yeah.
I was watching and observing, seeing what you do, and just learning from it. But
Yeah, of course.
But it's just crazy.
Before I could do anything on my end, I literally had to upgrade my hardware because editing Lost Word was horrendous. I've never done any video editing before at this point, so I wanted to use Lost Words as a way of learning stuff. It's kind of what I'm doing now with Guild, but I just couldn't. I was just scrolling through the timeline. It was a flip of the coin whether my PC would just crash. It just could not handle it.
That's fair.
It's crazy. We've all learned new tricks.
It's up there.
We do.
Yeah, and we celebrated 1 year ourselves. We hit that early in late in the September time. Sorry, just before Stadia's birthday, because we are the longest running Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps. So there's only Stadia cast who have bested us, because Bill and Lloyd got in there months ahead before it was. I think it was as soon as the GDC announcement dropped, they were like, "Yeah, let's do a Stadia podcast, go!" And they had all the tools at their disposal to just launch a podcast immediately. And credit to them.
I've heard the story. Apparently, I think they were just literally both came up with the idea of doing a Stadia podcast while watching the GDC thing, and then instantly, like, there we go.
Whereas I'm sat there texting you going, "Richie, are you buying Stadia? Does this do anything for you? Should we get in on this Founders Edition?" Before even considering doing a podcast or anything about it. So, crazy stuff. But that was a thing that happened. We did 14 hour stream to celebrate. We played games, we did talk shows, we did giveaways. It was a fun day. We got pizza. Obviously between lockdowns, so more importantly, we were allowed to see each other for the first time in half a year, which was crazy. And now we've gone months again without seeing each other, so it's ironic again. And then I think the biggest shout of it all has to just be our amazing community, the people who get in touch with us on a day-to-day basis, especially our patrons, obviously. Patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. You people who have gone above and beyond to support us and just show us faith. Really, really early doors. Like, we had patrons dropping in like January, February, and we'd barely done anything other than a couple of podcasts in audio format. And the fact that you've stood with us, you've supported us, you've really given us the drive to push ourselves, to elevate and impress you a little bit more with every passing week. So
it's given us, at least for me, the confidence to keep going. Like. Knowing that there's people out there who like what we're doing and supporting us, it's a massive thing. We do not take it for granted.
No, certainly not. Every time we get like a new sub, I know like when we hit like those milestones, we always like put it in our chat group and say, "Oh, we've hit this, we've hit that," and it really is like amazing to look back at. We actually had some statistics, didn't we? Somewhere I feel like I wrote them and then I can't find them now.
Things like milestones, it's not just our achievement, it's the achievement of the communities. Like, you're attracting more people to our stuff, so thank you for that.
And I think it's also a really good opportunity as well to shout out everyone who actively just like gets involved on the Discord server as well, because you are the heart and soul of the community, really. And just to be able to interact with you every single day, even when we're just like bored at work or just like stuck with something to do outside of this, it's just nice to develop those relationships and get to meet new friends. It's just really, really, really nice to be able to do this.
I spend too much time in our Discord server at work.
I'm not gonna lie, I actually do on my laptop as well. I
read practically everything that's written in our comments and in our Discord.
There you go. So if you're listening to this now, later in the week, maybe even next year or this year, I guess, go over to Discord right now. Say, "Hey Richie, looking good."
How's the beard?
Yeah, that's it. When you're listening to this, I want you to go out Discord and just ask me how my beard is. I will completely forget this.
I'd love them to ask you like something random, like go tag Richie right now and just say like salami or something like that, and he'll be looking at it on like January 3rd going, "Salami? What? Why have they tagged me with that?" Don't know why I thought it was salami. I don't even like salami. Yeah, massive, obviously, appreciation. It doesn't stop, and yeah, we're honestly humbled and honoured and everything from all your love and comments and engagement that you get from us. And we are on the cusp of like great things. We obviously, a couple of stats. I'm just off the top of my head. I'm sure we passed our 10,000 downloads mark on the podcast,
We did.
which is like crazy, like 10,000 downloads.
Let's also actually just acknowledge the fact that that's 10,000 on the audio podcast as well. That doesn't even take into account the amount of times you guys have viewed us on YouTube as well. So thank you to all of our audio listeners at that point as well for just sticking with us and just running with it, because that's a huge milestone. 10,000 downloads in audio version. Wow.
Yeah. And on top of
hard
that,
to comprehend the number.
Like if you put that many people in front of us, it'd be like you wouldn't be able to see for the lack of trees. And obviously we're creeping ever so close to that magic 1K on YouTube as well, which we most certainly will hit in the new year, unless we do something horrible. And I don't know, like, yeah, I'm not even going to make a joke about it just in case it risks it, but unless we do something drastic, hopefully we're on a great trend. And again, the more you share, the more you comment, the more you like the video and stuff, it helps just raise us to the Google Stadia algorithms up the top, and we will hit that magic 1K, and when we're there to do it, you'll be along celebrating with us. But in terms of that limit, YouTube also give us the challenge of passing 4,000 hours views. So one of the stipulations is we need over 4,000 hours, and we were worried early doors, like, will we make it with the podcast? With that, we're nearly at 10,000, everybody. So forget the 4,000 limit YouTube set. We've just blown past that. So again, thank you everyone who tunes in for live streams, the videos, the talk shows, the live ones, the just anything that's got video on YouTube. We massively appreciate it, and the Facebook community and everything like that. We can't say thank you enough. Thank you. We've already said it.
Thank you.
Far too many times. So then, seeing as this is a time travel episode, Tom, I wouldn't want to go an episode without you giving us the special rundown, even though we've got nothing for it. But would you please do it to round out the year for a more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? What's the word? I need the word.
What's the word?
It's like you're honouring something, but you're doing it out of like tradition rather than actually meaning something. Out of merit, there's a word.
This is just, I don't know.
Commemorative. There's a word that we're doing.
Commemorative. It's just out of respect. It's out of
out of respect for the podcast.
Our respect.
The word will come to him eventually, but I'm sure he's talking about the super sexy special Stadia Story segment, aka the news.
The New Year's. The News Years.
Yes.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
So I think we're going to travel back through the super sexy special Stadia space-time continuum.
Wow. Segment. Of course, the thing with it,
yonder.
You wouldn't have a podcast without this. However, we've got no news for you this week, everybody, because we're stuck in a time capsule. This has been recorded before Christmas. You're listening to this after Christmas. So what we're going to do is just quickly guess. We mentioned it in last week's broadcast for Christmas, but guess again. Yeah, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So we're just ticking into the new year. We've got our January Pro games, which we predicted last week.
Okay.
Do we have
How crazy
Ubisoft?
We're going to get with this.
Do we have Ubisoft Plus yet?
No, it's moved to Canada. It's now.
It's migrated. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm leaning towards. At the time this is out, I think it's still just in beta in America because it's not that long since the announcement. I think maybe in January you might start seeing movement.
Ooh, really?
Okay. Will we have had a Stadia Connect between Christmas and New Year? Because if I'm not mistaken, we were promised one more before the end of the year. We got good stuff and Hangouts instead.
The Escapist did an interview with John Justice, and they was hinting that they had some stuff before the end of the year.
What?
Well,
I'm sure.
If we're doing a podcast and we've missed out on a whole Stadia Connect, then we apologise, everybody. Wow, that news, that's crazy. They've signed up. They've signed.
That feature.
Ninja.
It might not be Stadia Connect. It might just be blog drops. But when he's having to talk vague, he can't. He can't commit either way.
I know he acknowledged the fact that they have now said that they are not going to reveal a roadmap. That they're going to continue the same trend that has happened this year. So. Even though we've been harping on for that roadmap again and again, it looks like we're never actually going to get it. So that's probably going to be the last time we really mention it.
Yeah, I think what they found, what he said is, I think that's working for them.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't work for us though.
It doesn't work for us. We don't work for Google, so unfortunately.
But we are the target market. We are the consumers. So don't make me drag Chase in here and go to town on your ass, Richie, about consumer advocacy and how everything should be focused towards us people. But either way, that's just us predicting the future. But either way, I'm sure one thing we can all guarantee is next year is going to be a hell of a lot better than this year. That is certain. So without any news, we might as well crack on with our main subject of discussion for this week. And that is, of course, the Stadia Game of the Year. We want to have a brief discussion around about what our games are. So we've plucked a few of them out. Apologies if there's any games out there that you deem to be Stadia Game of the Year. The rules obviously are, one, it has to have came out in 2020. I hate the Game Awards, and we've said it many a times how games get cut off because they're not. So next year, 2021, you'll see Cyberpunk potentially in some kind of conversation, even though it came out this year, which is... It's so weird, but either way, let's start off with... I don't think it's in any chronological... Can't even say that. It's the time travel. I can't say chronological because of the time travel. There's like a weird... If any words to do with time, you can't say or you break the space-time
crossing
continuum.
the streams.
That is exactly how it goes.
Time machine, chronological.
But we've added them in.
Yeah.
We've got them in there. Richie, I think straight off the bat, we've said early access titles. We're probably just going to put a pin in because we don't think it's fair that Baldur's Gate.
Things like Ember, Baldur's Gate, On Hand Clapping. Is there any I'm missing?
I mean,
top?
Let's face it, Ember wasn't really in with a shout for Game of the Year, if we're honest.
Baldur's Gate. So we're not talking about Baldur's Gate because we consider it's in early access. So we'll consider that for whenever it comes out proper.
And they don't delete your save and you start again with it. Exactly. But some of the games we do have, let's give a quick rundown and then we'll break out and talk about them. We have Doom Eternal, obviously from Bethesda, recently acquired this year by Microsoft. Dropping in there, we've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't know why I said it like that. Assassin's Creed? Just one. Assassin. I'm saying it wrong all the time now. Assassin's Creed Valhalla obviously dropped as well. We've got Immortals Phoenix Rising, which we got the great demo with in the summertime as well. Springtime, August time. Orcs Must Die 3, one of the Stadia exclusives. Serious Sam 4. We got the Stadia exclusive from Splash Damage Outcasters as well. Watch Dogs Legion. Marvel's Avengers did actually come out this year. And of course... And I can see you highlighting the doc. I missed it. I missed it intentionally because it's the controversial end of the year game. Cyberpunk 2077 did manage to come out this year, even though we've spoke about it throughout the course of the year that it wasn't coming to Stadia day and date. By the end of the year, there is a world where where the point of recording this 20th of December. We could still not be playing Cyberpunk in another world right now because we were told by the end of the year and we were feared it was going to be like the 31st of December. But
we have genuinely been talking about it since episode 1.
Yeah. But joke's on you, everyone. We've been playing on Stadia and it runs the best. But the question is, does it factor into our game of the year? So, gentlemen, I'll throw it over to you guys. We're not game journalists. We don't have all the time in our life just to play these games to their full extent. So take it with a pinch of salt that we haven't finished a lot of these games, especially the ones that have just came out recently. But I think we've all probably played enough of. Looking at the list, I think I've played enough of everything bar Watch Dogs to have, and maybe Doom Eternal to have a real conversation around it. But Tom, I'll throw it over to you. Where would you like to start? Where would you like to plant your flag for your battle for Game of the Year on Stadia?
I'm going to run through a couple of titles first of all, only just because it's sort of like honourable mentions, and I'm going to start with them because I want to talk particularly as to my reasons why they are not Game of the Year. So I'm going to start off by jumping straight into one that I know you love, Chris, which is Marvel's Avengers. I think the single player content is incredible. I thought the story was fantastic and the gameplay is phenomenal. But I do think it suffers a little bit from that sort of grindy multiplayer element to it. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for it, but I'd probably be more for it as the game grows, as there are more characters, which they're fleshing out. Like
I'm exactly the same as you, Tom, with the Marvel's Avengers. It gets, when you go to the multiplayer stuff, a lot of the maps are very, very samey. The objectives are very samey. And it just felt like I was grinding big in numbers for the sake of big in numbers without a goal in mind. It's like, just get your character level cap. It's like, why? So you can do the hives. which seem to be like kind of more as the same. Really, it just needs a way of like how things like Destiny and stuff have things like raids and stuff which change up the game nature of the gameplay, so you have an objective.
And that's what I want to see. I want to see more of, with Marvel's Avengers, I want to see more like longevity to it, but in the sense of like introducing raids and introducing more of like the, not just the key heroes, but also the villains as well. So taking it a little bit further afield in terms of some of those like those staple villains that you've got from the Marvel franchise and bringing them more into that story there. Because surely if you've got the licenses for the main characters, you can definitely go for the antagonists as well alongside them. So that's something that I feel like sort of, knocks it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm then going to jump on to talk about Doom Eternal, which I think out of the three of us, I've probably put the most time into. I've played a lot of Doom Eternal. I haven't beaten it yet, simply because I got sidetracked by other games. Incredible soundtrack, fantastic game to play through, but I just lost interest in it, and I can't really nail down why. It may have something to do with the fact that when Doom Eternal came out, Stadia was still very much in its infancy. There were some teething issues with it in terms of the promise of 4K 60 frames per second, which never actually came true. We never got a 4K visual with it. It was just upscaled. And the multiplayer really suffered as well because of the lack of players with it. I feel like if Doom Eternal had been put back and may have released later on in the cycle, that it may have actually been far more successful if all of those things had been hit. Great game though, but I still don't think it really shines a torch on Doom 2016, which I do still see as being now having played it on Stadia, is a more superior game. It is.
Yeah, for me with Doom, I was really looking forward to it, and when I sat down to play it, I just wasn't in the right mood, and then I eventually actually just got a refund. It's still on my list to go back to.
I mean, if you think about when Doom dropped, it was right at the beginning of the pandemic as well. Yes. So it, like, for better or for worse, I am very curious to think about how people's psychologies and mindsets will have been. Like, the mind will have been concerned elsewhere, like what's happening with my job, what's happening with the whole furlough thing, working from home, like healthcare, like your families and friends and stuff, and not being able to see people. Like, was playing a game about killing demons on another planet really, like, you go, like, is that what you want to be spending your time doing at this moment? Whereas, yeah, people were hugging toilet roll back then. That was their priority. That was a thing. So it's interesting, like, yeah, Tom, if it had come out at a different year, not only just like the real life consequences of that launch window, but also being in the right kind of thing. But I picked up the Doom 2016 when it was like £4.50 on the Stadia store. So I'm excited to get into that, with that clearly now being the most revered out of the two reboot entries. So yeah.
Let's not forget as well, you mentioned, Tom, if Doom Eternal came out later, it might have done better. I also think if it came out earlier, if it was day and date with Stadia as it was planned, that might have
potentially.
Yeah, because that was one of the first missteps for Stadia. Like, it wasn't not by their fault at all, but that would have been an awesome way. I think while there's still a lot of people interested in Stadia, like before like the negativity hit, if Doom Eternal was there day and date, people bought Doom Eternal on Stadia and give it a go, Stadia might have had a bigger push out the door than it actually did.
Fair enough.
That is a good show, with a big impact on marketing.
I'm only going to touch on two more games. So I'm just going to very quick shout out to say Cyberpunk 2077. I am really enjoying it, but like I say, I think the timing where it's fallen in my life is just that I haven't put enough into it. But what I have seen is I've tried it on both the high frame rate and on the visual settings, and I don't care whether it's 30 frames per second in 4K, and I do have a 4K TV downstairs. It looks beautiful. Like, it looks damn good. I just need to spend more time with it, so I can't possibly say Cyberpunk is my game of the year, so I'm going to have to throw that over to the other game that I have played, yet I still want to put more time into, and that is Valhalla. Simply because, for me, I love the setting, I love the idea of the game, but again, I still need to put more time into it. It's the game that I feel like I will sink most of my time into.
Yeah, well, for me, it's hard for me to talk about Cyberpunk at the moment because between
because you're playing it on PS4, right?
No, between recording this and you listening to this, I've probably played a lot more than I currently have, because I am planning this to be my Christmas game, the game I've got to sink my teeth into massively while I'm off. So at the time of recording, I've got like an hour and a half into the game, and I've encountered no bugs. Driving's a bit weird, but...
Do you want to make a cyberpunk futuristic prediction then? So just channel your mind into Richie 2 weeks from now. You're 50 hours deep into cyberpunk. Give us your hot take synopsis. Go. What do you think of cyberpunk, Richie? 2021 version.
I think it's in. I think it's in for the conversation, but I'm not sure it is going to get my game of the year. No.
All right. No.
Okay.
It's hard to know till I play, because
of course, yeah. I mean, I can add a bit to that. So I'm about 25 hours in. I'm a big chunk through the story. I've very much been doing the main campaign. As I said on the podcast last week, spent a lot of time with Keanu Reeves' character, going back and forth. I'm starting to learn a lot more about the world and the way it works, and the side quests and the missions, and the way it kind of all folds into that open world. What Tom said, absolutely gorgeous. Run on Stadia 4K, looks beautiful. I totally appreciate all the work CD Projekt Red have done. The depth and detail of like the shops and the buildings you can go through. They've got like their own floors and levels, and everyone has like their own apartment rooms. And there's so many NPCs just kind of going about their day. It's a very lived-in world. But then on the flip side, as a person who plays like a lot of games, it's not doing anything special for me that I don't think any other games have really done. Like, it's got story, it's got narrative. I think the voice acting is really, really well done, especially for like kind of turn-based dialogue. It fleshes out a lot of options, and it's very well written and thought out. But it's not doing anything that I'm looking at the other games on this list, and I'm thinking it's not blowing me away like the kind of big thing it was hyped up to. Again, I've said a few times on previous episodes, the driving is shit. Like, honestly, like whether you're on a bike or a car, it's just clunky and slow, and it does not feel it's not fun to drive around. And with a city that big and a world that big, it should feel awesome. I should want to get in those hyper neon cars, and I mean, Johnny Silverhands is rocking a Porsche that was from 1977, so it's actually 100 years old to the day in this game, and that Porsche should feel phenomenal to drive around in, and it just doesn't. So on top of all like the little bugs and glitches, I am more of a third person gamer. Like, arguably, like every time I do get on the motorbike and I can see my character, I just feel like you get a bigger scope of the world when you're seeing your character within the world. I think the first person perspective does do damage to feeling immersed as much. I know you're more immersed because of the camera angle, but not seeing your character for an RPG really just undercuts the kind of the thing I think it's going for.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest criticisms I've heard, apart from the bugs and stuff, and the
general refund and everything else surrounding it. Yeah.
The biggest criticism of the design of the game, it seems to be most people think this game will be better in third person.
Yeah, it really would. Well, I think so anyway, and that is why it does not win my Game of the Year. I just think from the other games on the list, I think to link it back in with what Tom said, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, again, Ubisoft games are generally comfort food for me, so they always probably get a little bit of a bias boost. But yeah, the world, obviously, we're walking around England, which is obviously our home country, so it's not, I don't want to say familiar, but it's great seeing places like Jorvik and Hadrian's Walls that we've been to in real life. It does add an element of like gravitas to what you're doing.
Obviously, I've generally drunk mead in Jorvik out of a horn.
Out of a horn, yeah, we have. You're right. You're totally right. yeah, the horn is definitely true. But yeah, I've scaled a lot of those walls, like the castle walls in York. I've gone around, and when you go to London, Windsor Castle and stuff, like we've all seen those, right? But in terms of just, I think back to Tom, what you were saying, like the Norse mythology, it just adds a lot of like deep storytelling, and the characters that the part of pop culture now, everyone's familiar with them, and like I appreciate Cyberpunk creating this amazing, awesome world, but there's something fun and exciting about delving back into mythology and history and uncovering stuff about like Roman artifacts and being a Viking and taking on raids. And don't get me wrong, Ubisoft game doesn't run smooth. I'm not talking it runs as smooth as butter. It does have its element of jank. The cutscenes, some of the character animations, people moving around all over the place in the background, and the character models of some of the lesser NPCs are like bad. The kids, the scary children, the scary ass children of Assassin's Creed Valhalla will forever haunt my dreams. But in terms of like a complete game on such a large scale as well, I think it's great. And I think probably Richie, I'll throw it over to you for Valhalla, because you were not, I don't want to say but skeptical about the Assassin's Creed direction it's going in. And
I think Assassin's Creed is the quality of the games is massively overinflated in the last few. I haven't played Origins, so I'm not going to talk about that. Okay. But Assassin's Creed 3 was garbage. It was just boring. It was just boring and bland. Black Flag for me is massively overrated. It's a really good story, but the world's too full of fluff, and it's got a few annoying decisions. Like, I remember there's one quest while I was playing, spent ages upgrading my ship and stuff. Halfway through a quest string, Blackbeard asked me to meet him out in the middle of the ocean, get there, and goes, "Oh, you can't do this mission because you haven't upgraded your ship properly."
Classic
that
game.
Stuff like that is just, that's when I stopped playing, to be honest. It annoyed me. And then it's like, I've just spent hours upgrading. Then I got things like when Ubisoft were at the dark times for Ubisoft, Unity and Syndicate and stuff, which were kind of rushed out, were a bit broken, kind of like Cyberpunk.
I just want to say again, Syndicate ran great. It just got a backlash because of Unity. That's all it was.
But Ubisoft learned from that. But that was the kind of the era of Assassin's Creed where I just went not interested at all. And it was with Odyssey I started getting back into it. And Odyssey, again, I think it's just overrated. It's good, but it's not great. And going back to playing it on Stadia is actually where I started to enjoy it, because I didn't enjoy it on PS4 at all. Valhalla has converted me.
Wow.
It's there isn't a decision made that kind of makes me go, why did you do that? Like, even with Odyssey, the story just kind of was just almost like a shotgun approach all over Greece, and it had your quest log would get bogged down with just generated quests, and just I haven't had any of that from Valhalla. I think the combat's fantastic. The targeting is terrible, so you need to turn that straight up. You need to not use that, but just control the camera yourself. You'll have a better time.
You definitely will. But yeah, it's great to hear.
At the time of talking, I'm 95 hours in, which
so
I'm not finished.
Yeah, it's safe to say you've played enough to make a...
Yeah, I want to get back to it. So I think that kind of sums up my views. Is like, after 95 hours, I'm not done.
Will you be jumping into the season pass then, do we think? If it's still got its hooks in you come the new year? When you get to venture to, what have they said, Paris and...
I think once I roll credits, I will be done, because there's a few... Because I do want to go and play Cyberpunk, or I'm probably already playing it by the time we're talking. And there's another game I think we should get onto next, another Ubisoft title that I do want to sink some time into, and that's Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one that, unfortunately, I've got bagged as my Christmas game, but honestly, as the the love I hold for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, mixed with the humour and the gameplay style we all saw in the demo we looked at as part of the Good Stuff event. Immortals, I think my mindset at the moment is I'm going to beeline the Cyberpunk story, get that done and out the way, and unless something drastically changes, I think I'll just finish the story and then I'm done with it. Valhalla I need to get back to, because I can't have Richie doing like triple the hours that I usually put into a game when I'm arguably the biggest fan of the franchise here, so that needs to be done over Christmas. But more importantly, Immortals, man, like I said, I had a fear of this, that it was going to be sidelined, and we've already seen with the massive discounts on the game, along with Watch Dogs Legion, which we'll also talk about. It's one that I'm hearing nothing but praise, like from whether it be Rock saying the music's phenomenal, to our friend and patron Ashley saying that the gameplay is really good and she's loving it to bits, and the comedy and the reviews. And then it's got that Odyssey tinge. I just want to get back to a sunny Greek island and explore mythology, Greek mythology more importantly, and just and fly around, because you can fly in this game. I don't
get Ubisoft's marketing strategy for this game, because let's launch it at the same time as Valhalla and Watch Dogs. It's like, you're just getting in your own way at that point.
Yeah, they really are.
Cyberpunk came out as well. It's just
save Immortals for January or something.
Yeah,
I would have went with that, the January or February slot, where there's not much. Usually there's a bit of a lull sometimes.
Well, that's it. Now Far Cry's been pushed back to like May or something. They generally have a 5-month window. I think all they've got coming out is Riders Republic, which is a very niche game to aim at. So
there's too much crossover between Phoenix Rising and Valhalla, especially, that I think that I think most people looking at one of the games are going to go one or the other. Probably more Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Which is just a shame because it looks like an awesome game, and I will play it.
Yeah, I'll definitely give a much better review on episode 67 next week when we get around to that one, because I'll have played it definitively a lot more now. But I don't think it'll get my game of the year, because I honestly think the Norse mythology and the pull of Assassin's Creed is more alluring. But yeah, I'm looking at hype towards it. How about you, Thomas? I know you cancelled your pre-order in the hope of the Ubisoft Plus. Is this still on your radar, or is this now getting pushed further and further back?
It absolutely isn't, to be honest with you. It's something that I feel like, because of the light-hearted nature of the game, I'm actually more tempted to get into that than probably playing a different game, just because it's something to ease me through the Christmas holidays rather than something that's really gritty and quite, like stretched out, having to put in 95 plus hours into. Like, I really do want to put the time into Valhalla. I want to put the time into 2077, but again, I am quite drawn to playing Immortals Phoenix Rising just because of that almost like ease of access of not knowing that it's knowing that it's not going to be too stressful to play.
Do you remember when there was no games on Stadia?
No games on Stadia. Remember last year?
We're literally debating about what order to play games in.
Remember last year, Richie, when we got shit in the comments for not talking about Stadia games on a Stadia podcast, and it wasn't our fault. It was because there was no bloody games out. So what were we going to? What would we have actually reviewed last year from Stadia? Because Doom got knocked back.
We've just talked about games that have already come out, apart from Guild.
Yeah, well, I think we're talking about things like Tomb Raider and stuff. Like,
How we've grown. But let's give a shout out as well to, I think, a few of these Stadia exclusive games. Unfortunately for me, the AAA titles are always going to beat it for Game of the Year. There is a big part of me. I'm a bit of a snob like the BAFTAs, where when I pitch a Game of the Year, it needs to hit a certain visual threshold, sound, gameplay style, and unfortunately, indie titles and more like party games, they never tick that box for me that I would even consider them for Game of the Year. But they could probably have their own category, the best independent game, best small title, or something like that. But Orcs Must Die 3, I know we never got to play with you, Tom, but me and Richie had an absolute great time playing that on our Thursday streams. Loads of fun.
I'd give Orcs Must Die my best AA. It doesn't make it into the game.
It's a fantastic game. It is a ton of fun. Like, you can't deny it. But yeah, it's not up there with the AAAs, so certainly it's a shame. But yeah, it's a damn good game though.
I obviously checked out Serious Sam 4 for our first look as well. Never played anything prior to that. I dabbled in the trilogy once that went on a pro game a little bit. It reminds me of Duke Nukem. I played Duke Nukem back when I was a child. That type of gameplay, the longevity doesn't really get its claws in anymore. It's very much you just run around linear maps and shoot everything, and after a while it just doesn't stimulate me anymore, unfortunately. Like it really doesn't. Like, I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. It'd be great if I was sat there as a with my brother alongside me, we'd swap the controller and we'd do a mission each and we just bomb through and laugh at the wacky crazy nature of it. But as an adult with limited time, it really, in the story, let's face it, the story and the character are quite one-dimensional. It's you've got your 80s action hero guy and you've got generic villains who like to take over the world. That's kind of why I wasn't really interested in it at all. It kind of looked like a fun AA title, but I was like, I'm not really into shooters that much. A shooter has to do something really awesome, like Doom did, to kind of pique my interest. And it's just like, well, I could get this game and sink time into it, but that's time I could be spending on a game I prefer. Yeah, I get
fair enough.
And then a game I suppose we've all probably played. Actually, before we get on that, Watch Dogs Legion. I think it's just been shafted all over the place this year, along with everything else. It's the furthest one down my list for the Ubisoft titles to play. Again, London has me intrigued to go explore, but the lack of a main character to play as doesn't feel like the story's going to be there. The reviews were okay. I think it got good reviews. I've platinumed the other two. I've finished them to 100%. So it's definitely on my list, but at this moment in time, I haven't played it enough, unfortunately, to give a Game of the Year recommendation. But I still think Valhalla and Immortals would probably pip it just from a first opinion look either way.
Yeah. For Watch Dogs, I do have a recommendation for people to watch. There's a YouTuber called Mark Brown who makes Game Maker's Toolkit. I've already mentioned him in the podcast before. he did at his end of the year. He does like an innovation. He does like one episode that talks about the most innovative title over the last year. And he actually went with Watch Dogs Legion. It's quite good watching actually. He talks about the pros and cons and because without the way and also kind of the nuts and bolts of how like the no main character stuff actually works. So it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, it's still one that I want to sort.
It's fantastic. He does fantastic stuff.
Yeah, Watch Dogs Legion is definitely one of the games that really intrigued me when it first got announced, and it's still one that I think I'd like to. But again, it's just this back catalogue of games at the moment, and the amount of good titles that have come out that just pip it. That just means it just gets knocked down a little bit further. So it's a shame, but it's still one that I may dabble in, but it might just get sidelined, and it might get sidelined to the point that I never get around to it, which sort of sucks for it, really.
It runs that risk.
Yeah,
it runs that risk. And the biggest irony of it all, I think, for a lot of these titles is Cyberpunk, Avengers, and Watch Dogs Legion should have all came out in March and April, gents.
Yes.
Like we should have been 6-7 months into these games almost by now.
If it wasn't for COVID, I think these games probably wouldn't have been so stacked on top of each other. Especially the Ubisoft stuff.
I mean, they were supposed to come out before COVID was a thing, right? Like these games got delayed early in the year from the March and the March launch dates.
It really kicked off in February.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have impacted
the initial delay.
I mean, I'd hope a month out, unless you CD Projekt Red, I hope a month out your game's pretty much good to go. But
yeah, it just would have been nice for Ubisoft to spread these out across the year.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wonder if it was almost like they know what the slate for next year is going to be, so they just sent these out to almost die a bit. Like, okay, we need to get them out. Let's get them out.
I mean, when was them all supposed to come out originally? Was that like August time, and then it got bumped to October, then December? If that's what I'm thinking, it's so hard to keep track of them all.
I want to say October. October sounds like a good shout.
Oh, actually, didn't you have a prediction, Tom, that tipped it over? You were a day out or something. Was this the game? Was this what it was?
No, it was Watch Dogs Legion, where I predicted that it would come out at the end of October, and it came out literally the day after, like the 2nd of November or something like that. Yeah, that sucks. But
and then the final game I suppose we should talk about as well is Outcast has recently dropped as a pro game off the back of the Hangouts event. Everyone's jumped in and tried it now. Super fun to be had. Again, my definition of game of the year, it doesn't get it. In all honesty, I think I probably had more fun with Orcs Must Die than Outcasters. It's a great game, but I think if it was up there for 20 quid, I wouldn't have bought it, if I'm honest. Like, it's fun. Will I be going back to it anytime soon? Not really, if I'm honest. Like, it might sound harsh. I know a lot of people out there love Outcasters, but it's a party game, and at the moment, I'd rather play 90 hours of Valhalla as a single-player story than do daily grinds for a little Play-Doh man. Sorry.
I'm likely to play this as part of one of our Thursday night streams more than anything. That's where I see that game fitting into like my rotation. This is why I want like a custom folder section on Stadia, so I can put all like our Thursday night staples, things like Outcasters, Cake Bash, Get Packed, things like anything like that, and just chuck it in the folder.
Yeah, I hate to feel that way, but I do feel like I'd rather play Cake Bash than Outcasters. But don't get me wrong, like I do like the idea of Outcasters, and I like where they're going with it. It's very much got that Fall Guys-esque feel to it, but I do feel like there's a lot more that needs to be done with that game still to make it more attractive and to have that lure.
It needs more game.
It needs more game. Exactly right. Exactly
it's got
right.
3 modes and 3 maps. It just needs more game.
Yeah. I want a story-driven, linear, cutthroat, deep, character-building RPG. No, I don't really.
What they need to do is they just need to vary up. They need to come up with some more level designs, a few more different game mechanics to make it like a true party game that you can jump into, and every time you play with people, you get a different experience.
Yeah. And again, I think it just goes back to the type of gamers that we all are. Our stage in our lives. I know we keep saying it, but the reality is, if it's the same bracket that everything else falls into, it's Cake Bash, Get Packed. I don't play them on my own. Like that, it just doesn't interest me. I don't want to do online with other people. It's just that I would rather sink another 10 hours into Cyberpunk than sit there to get a customizable hat on a character. Like it just doesn't do it.
I get that side of enjoyment from our first night streams when we're playing with the community. Then it's about engaging with the community. That's where the enjoyment comes from me. Not necessarily the game too much. As long as I have decent internet while we're trying to play Cake Bash. That sucks.
So should we just wrap this up then, gentlemen, and say it as it is? We'll throw it one by one. Tom, your Stadia Game of the Year for 2020 is, drum roll,
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Richie, your Game of the Year for Stadia 2020 is?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Can someone ask me the question, please?
Chris, your Stadia Game of the Year is...
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
All right, okay.
There you have it.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our Sounds of Stadia, voted for by us, is our... It is, but you know what? Guys, it's on Stadia. It runs great on Stadia. And,
came out this year.
It
made a convert of me.
It made a convert of Richie, which has been the hardest thing that any game has had to do ever. As a caveat to all this, Richie, outside of Stadia, what is your Game of the Year?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Mine too. Tom?
Wow. Oh no! Don't.
Oh, have I opened a can of worms with that one?
Yeah, I haven't even thought about
Yeah, well,
that.
while you have a quick thing, me and Richie will just gush about Ghost of Tsushima for a little bit, because it pipped Last of Us Part 2, which is a testament unto itself, but in terms of that game, visually beautiful, gameplay super fun. The free online they added after the fact is amazing. It's the best multiplayer I've played all year. I can't say great things enough about it.
The PS5 upgrade makes it feel like a different game. The difference between 30 frames to 60 frames a second.
It's smooth.
It makes combat feel so much smoother. And it's like, I didn't play a lot. Yeah. But I just, when I got my PS5, it was one of the ones I wanted to go in and test out.
Yeah. And the irony...
I don't think it's got the adaptive triggers.
Not yet, no. But they will have that, I guarantee it.
I hope they come, because if you want, especially if they're online, and I hope they keep supporting that.
Yeah, oh, they will. They will. They've said there's more stuff, but...
I definitely feel like had I played it, it probably would be Ghost of Tsushima as well. From my own personal experience, I'd probably have to say Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that's just because
the nostalgia.
But it's also because of everything that's gone on in my life. I've just got this like void of time where I didn't really get to try anything new, so it probably stops around that sort of FF7 Remake sort of point, right?
I think we had the discussion before, Chris. I think 7 was definitely it was in the ballpark. It was between Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, and Final Fantasy VII. It was during the Game Awards stream, actually, when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
And Ghost of Tsushima wins, but it was very much, I've got these 3 awesome games to pick between.
It's like picking your favourite child.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that was...
But, Tom, that's one you'll have to definitely get a recommend to, because the irony of it all for me is the fact that we've all voted for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. For me, Ghost of Tsushima is the quintessential Assassin's Creed game in feudal Japan. With much better graphics, the character animations infinitely better, the combat much tighter. Like that's what I struggled with, going from Ghost of Tsushima to playing Valhalla. The being a samurai and the fighting mechanics, they're so tight and disciplined and sharp and precise. To go into Valhalla where you just waving axes and shields around left, right and centre, it felt quite jarring for the first 5-6 hours of Valhalla until you settled into it. But chef's kiss, it's so good.
I feel like it would have been the perfect game to play after Sekiro as well. I feel like it just would have been transition so good.
I think the combat in Ghost of Tsushima is so good. When I was playing Valhalla, I stopped using targeting. Not just because it's kind of janky, it's just because I prefer without.
Yeah.
Like, because I got used to playing without.
So there you go. And you just get to chill out and play haikus and blow a windpipe looking over gorgeous vistas, Tom, with cherry blossom falling in the background. You'll use photo more than anything than you've ever done before.
Or a fox to...
But anyway, that's not a Stadia game, so let's not talk about it here. We can't talk about anything else. But no, so congratulations, Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Ghost of Tsushima and Final Fantasy VII as well. We might have the second part of that remake some point before Cyberpunk sorted shit out with its game, but we'll see. And to kind of see out the show, gentlemen, for the last couple of minutes, I did want to talk about a Stadia 2020 in review as well, because we've done our Game of the Year. We've got to look back at our own little podcasting fledgling careers that we've got started here. But like I said at the top of the show, I have pulled out a few bullet points from the last several months on Stadia, just to kind of do a little retread of the ground we've covered, and how crazy when you look back and think, as if we made a big deal of that, as if we spoke about that. So to start off with, for our Stadia 2020 in review, for our lovely audience out there, episode 16, testing started for non-pixel phones. Like, how crazy does it to say that this year Google started testing Google Pixel phones for Stadia, and it just seems like the norm now. You can play it on any Android device,
and iOS.
And iOS, yeah. Literally, like 99% of the mobile market is now playable. That's a great shout. In episode 17, Cyberpunk 2077 and Avengers were delayed until September.
Wow, little did they know.
Little did past Chris, Tom, and Richie know that. To be fair, Avengers did make the September cut, albeit still broken for the end game and other problems aside.
It's not broken. It's just not as much game.
Yeah, true. It didn't maybe land as well as they'd hoped. Let's say that. And Cyberpunk obviously got delayed again after that, which I'm sure is in here somewhere. In the 18th, we got the Stadia events were confirmed for GDC and the Google I/O, so that we were looking forward to some juicy Stadia news at the beginning of spring. In episode number 19, Mr. Phil Spencer came out and said Amazon and Google. Sorry?
The ex-boss himself.
The ex-boss himself came out and said Amazon and Google are our biggest competitors, and this is, of course, before they made big moves this year.
Yeah. Before we even knew about Luna.
Yeah, before we even knew about Luna, it's been such a busy year.
I remember this conversation because this is when there was I'd seen no hint at Amazon getting into gaming. So there's a lot of rumors going around. It's like, this is when I kind of thought, okay, Amazon are doing something. When Phil Spencer started mentioning it, that was the first kind of solid piece of evidence that for me that Amazon was working on something.
Then we got like Project Tempo rumors, and it was like, oh, Project Tempo, what's going on? And Amazon had the game studios. What remember the what was the game that got pulled?
Crucible.
Yeah, Crucible. That was in there somewhere. Yeah, poor Crucible, bless it. Sent out to pastures new. Episode 20, we did our first live unplugged live episode unplugged, both literally and figuratively. That was an absolute blast as well. We started seeing the Stadia team ramp up recruitment. Shannon Studstill from Sony Santa Monica, famed helpful director of the God of War series, which has obviously just got loads of applause. We don't know what she's doing yet, what she's done. No. But again, it's massive, massive talent, and it was a statement early doors about how important Stadia is, and if they're able to recruit people like that, looking back at it, I'm still super excited to see what she's working on. With her team, I cannot wait.
This is I think we probably touched on it at the time, was when people always going, Google not going to support Stadia beyond a year or two. It's like, no, they're investing money in setting up new studios, they're investing money in these people. Mm-hmm. They have around for at least 5 years.
They mean business. Yeah. And speaking of business, episode 24, we covered events being cancelled globally. You can almost sense where episode 24 sits into the year of 2020. E3 was cancelled, GDC was cancelled, PAX events were cancelled, Comic-Con, the cinemas, and this is basically where shit hit the fan, right, lads? And everyone buckled down for a very, very peculiar year. And obviously the ramifications of that are still happening. Will E3 be back next year? Who knows? Ubisoft Forward started springing up and everything like that. So everything starts to change. Splash Damage was announced, so we just mentioned Outcasters as one of our Game of the Year contenders. And then we followed that up with Tom dyeing his hair.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Can you remember that, Tom?
I do. I'm thinking about doing it again at some point soon, but I've got to find the time for it.
You do,
again.
Yeah.
It's just hitting the timing as a teacher. It's a bit weird to get your hair dyed. So.
Well, is that school rules dictate you're not allowed to have any crazy colours or anything like that?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
This is a summer holiday vibe, maybe.
Really blonde holidays.
Yeah, I think natural colours are okay, but when you go from like dark, like a dark colour to a bright colour, it obviously stands out.
It scares the kids. Yeah. And then, gentlemen, we got a Stadia Connect.
We did.
Yeah,
We got to sit down and react. I think that was one of our first live reaction videos, right? Where we actually said, "Are we going to cover this? Do we want to cover this? Yes, we need to cover this. Let's do something." And we did, and we got to react in the moment live with our audience of like the big announcements.
I'm trying to remember whether that was the one where they announced Jedi Fallen Order. Can't remember.
That might have been the second Connect.
I think it was the second Connect. Yeah.
Because I feel like the first one disappointed a lot of people.
Yes,
but I can't remember why now, because it was so long ago.
It's just I think when the Stadia
Okay, wasn't it? Because we joked, wasn't it? It was only 17 minutes long. It was Harrison on stage on like a digital. It was like in his bedroom or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it the one where we had the Stadia logo hanging by chains on the wall?
No, I think that was much later. That was at the Ubisoft forward, wasn't it? See, it all just blurs into one now, which is why we've got bullet points to keep us up. Let's see if we get any more. All the events go digital. Have you got the answer there, Richie?
Yeah, I'm reading from the notes from episode 32, so the show immediately after the Connect.
Okay.
So this is like Jedi Fallen Order's mentioned there, FIFA, Madden, NFL, PUBG, Octopath Traveler, Get Packed, Ember, Crater, Rock of Ages, and Wavebreak.
So quite a lot.
We all highlighted all these.
Wow, FIFA and Madden were mentioned there, Chris.
FIFA, were there? Let me just check our countdown thing.
This must be the EA one.
So let's see. Yeah, EA might have been a big one. So currently, at the time of recording, it doesn't matter because this is a future episode. So let's add 20 days onto the top. So FIFA's been out in the wild now for nearly 90 days, and we're still yet to see anything for winter. Yeah, we don't know. Moving on swiftly then, everyone went digital. We got IGN's Summer of Games. That kind of spanned 4 months. And the Stadia was included in that, but then didn't really get any showcase time.
There was hype about it, but then it was like one interview.
Yeah,
and it wasn't really advertised either. It was just sort of happened.
Yeah, every
we
now
got
and
told
again.
we go there. It's like, okay, tell us when.
We got Ubisoft Forwards announced. We got indie showcases. We basically got every man and his dog doing a showcase of games at some point.
3 years down, then every publisher's like, okay, we need to do something. So everyone did things.
Yeah, everyone react. We then learned on the week 37 that Cyberpunk is not coming on launch day for Stadia. Lol. Remember that uproar? What do you mean it's been delayed and it's still not coming day and date? If only we knew. Oh, wow! Hindsight is a wonderful thing, is it not?
Yeah, I think that's the definition of irony there as well. The fact that now it plays so well on Stadia, but it doesn't play well on.
Arguably, outside of top end PC gaming, it's arguably the best place to play it.
Yep. That is the laugh. That is probably one of the biggest laughable ones.
Don't forget the fact that they delayed Cyberpunk 2077 to make sure it could come out on Stadia as well. Apparently,
yeah.
Well, the ironic thing about the final delay was they delayed it to get the PS4 and Xbox One ports done.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's the biggest irony.
I think the calendar up on the wall in CD Projekt Red's office may be a bit longer than the typical Gregorian calendar that most people use, but who knows? Following up from that, then we got the Immortals / Gods and Monsters / Orpheus leak on Stadia. Remember that? Just randomly appeared one day in the store, and everyone's looking at it thinking, "This is Gods and Monsters." And some people, our friend Eddie over at Eddie Play One, actually got to play a solid 40-50 minutes of the game. And then quickly got told to pull all footage down and cease and desist. Understandably, because it hadn't been officially out there yet, which is crazy to think that happened. Couple of next quick bullet points then, lads. Mixer shut down.
And no one cared.
And someone cared. Someone at Microsoft cared.
I mean, Ninja got paid a shit ton of money.
Ninja did not care at all.
So.
Ninja got like a parachute payout escape.
Yeah.
They actually had to pay him out of his contract.
Everything.
Like, they actually paid up.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
He literally signed a contract for millions and millions of dollars for exclusivity, and then a few million months later got paid the whole load with absolutely no work required.
Yeah.
Man. Tom, dye your hair blue. There you go. That's how we go big.
We go big.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Let's see. Crowdplay started appearing. YouTube streamers out of nowhere. We're all of a sudden testing the features out.
Yeah.
Apple bans Epic, xCloud, and Stadia in a swift. And if I remember from our show notes, Richie, we just got as the bullet point caption was Apple being dicks. Was the thing. It was like, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we do have some
Nothing new there,
like
then.
in the show sometimes that we don't say out loud.
Apple just being dicks. And it doesn't look like they're not. Well, I mean, you could argue they still are dicks, but
Yeah,
they're
but
playing a
Google
bit
always
nicer
been
with them.
dicks. Microsoft always been big companies always been dicks at some point.
It's in their nature. It's in their nature.
Apple's
Speaking of
being Apple about things.
Speaking of being big companies doing stuff, the Embracer Group in episode 47 acquired their 4,567th title game studio. I don't actually know what number it was up to, but they spent 2020 basically just absorbing every developer under the sun.
Like a sponge.
You're a
the
developer.
sponge of the game.
You now belong to us.
Yeah, so
Sponge
who
of the games
knows?
industry.
I mean, yeah, no matter how many studios they bought, it didn't help them get SpongeBob and Destroy All Humans out any quicker, did it? So
True that.
True that. We got a rebrand. I pulled it directly from our show notes as well to Tom Clancy's Immortals: Skull and Bones: A Pirate's Life for Me mobile, which of course is our throwaway joke to what ended up being Immortals: Phoenix Rising. There was some back and forth about that.
We were talking about Skull and Bones from Ubisoft as well, and we just went a bit silly with it.
It's everything. Do we feel detached from everything, gentlemen, that Immortals: Phoenix Rising is now settled? The dust has settled on that title. Are we happy with it? Are we not as
I think we're quite happy with
grimacing
that. Yeah.
against it? It's one of them things, isn't it?
You just accept it and move on
Yeah.
and take it on the chin.
I think
That's
it sets up the Immortals as a franchise, with Phoenix Rising being the first in it. I think that's probably the whole where Gods and Monsters is a pretty cool working title, but then you kind of what Gods and Monsters 2, Gods and Monsters 3.
I would have thought they would just went Gods and Monsters : the thing.
Maybe they should have called it Gods of War.
I don't know. Monster Energy drink. Remember that.
Gods,
Oh yeah.
Gods of Peace.
God's a piece. Right, next up we've got a quick couple of fire ones. We've got next gen specs were released, so we found out about the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, so we were able to compare them with Stadia, see how it stacked up. We spoke about Stadia Gen 2, which John Justice has confirmed that they're going to upgrade stuff in the background, but they ain't telling us about it.
Nope.
So,
Which is what I called. And I called that. I've been saying that for months when people have gone, oh, Stadia Gen 2, Stadia Gen 2. It's like, there isn't going to be a discrete Stadia Gen 2. It's not the philosophy of Stadia. They're just going to upgrade the server and magically things will run better.
magic. Speaking of magic, Amazon Luna then launched, entered the fray on a random weekday night, I think it was. It was just like, oh, Amazon Luna's out. Oh, well, say out again. It's US only at this moment, so no one outside of the mighty United States of America can trial this beta at this moment in time. But hopefully early next year, gents, we can get our hands on it and give it a little wiggle of those sticks and see how it fares and stacks up. But you won't be playing Cyberpunk anytime soon on it, because I'd imagine Amazon going to CD Projekt Red and go, knock knock, quick question. We've launched this thing called Luna. We're rolling it out globally. Any chance you can spare some devs at this moment in time to port it to? Like, fuck off. No, we don't. No, we do not have time to port Cyberpunk to Luna anytime soon.
We should ask Luke from Stadia Source what Polish for fuck off is.
If you know what that is, because let's face it, like they have their entire year ahead of them of patching that game out and sorting it for millions and millions of players around the world.
And hoping it doesn't destroy their entire company.
That as well. Speaking of being destroyed by other companies, Microsoft bought Bethesda in episode 55 with a ridiculous amount of money, over the billions. And we don't really know what the ramifications of that are going to be yet. That's something that's probably going to play out over the next few years. Whether that impacts Stadia or not, because obviously we've got Doom and we've got a couple of more titles, Wolfenstein and such on there. So we could lose a lot of games, unfortunately, in the future. But Microsoft seem to be playing it cool.
With xCloud, you might not necessarily lose the game. This is the advantage of cloud gaming. It becomes almost like any other subscription service where you can bounce between like Amazon Prime and Netflix or Disney Plus, depending on what watching at the time. I can see Microsoft going that way. So it's like, oh, new cool Bethesda game comes out, I'll play it. I'll get a month of xCloud.
So Richie, are you saying right now that you're going to have a Game Pass subscription add-on for Stadia in the future?
No, not for Stadia. No.
I think we could. I honestly think one day we will see Game Pass on PlayStation and other things, and even possibly Nintendo Switch.
I don't think I can see it on PlayStation, because PlayStation at the moment is still kind of digging the heels in with like their last few generations of philosophy, where you buy a box every like 6-7 years, we'll give you a new box.
That's That's their philosophy. But what happens when Microsoft go, if you want Fallout, Elder Scrolls, all these other titles, you can still buy them on PlayStation. But again, I can just see Microsoft going, look, if you want to play them day one, it's $1 a month trial subscription. Have all the titles. But if you want to play on PlayStation, you still got to drop $60, 60 quid.
It depends. It depends on how much money Sony get off us compared to actually just buy it from out store.
But will Microsoft let them buy it out of store? That's the thing.
Yeah, there's discussions to be had.
It certainly is. Definitely further down the pipeline. But yeah, I could see Game Pass being like a Ubisoft Plus supplementary thing for Stadia.
I'm more optimistic from the Microsoft side than the Sony side.
Indeed. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. That's what we got next, gentlemen. We got a good stuff event, for better or for worse. It damaged, I think, the marketing beats at that moment in time. Good stuff wasn't. Yeah, it was okay stuff. It was brief, it was short, it was 3 minutes long, if I recall. Good stuff needs to be longer. The demos were great, though. Like, let's face it, Humankind, Pac-Man, and Immortals, Pirate's Life for me, Mobile, whatever it was called.
It should have been condensed into a single thing.
And I'm sure they'll learn from that. And we saw that in the Hangouts event as well. And then, just to wrap up the air as we creep closer to present time, I think we should just acknowledge that you can now play Avengers, Sekiro, Valhalla, Watch Dogs, Immortals Phoenix Rising, Cyberpunk 2077, Jedi Fallen Order, and many, many other titles on Stadia right now. Like,
Doom.
Just think, the beginning of this, we were talking about Stadia testing non-pixel phones, and then at the end of this, we're talking about that list of games to play right now.
And not only that, but 400 games for for the future as well. 400 games. Like 2021 is done and dusted as far as they're concerned for deals for games.
They're focusing on 2022 at the moment.
Yeah,
it's
they're
insane.
looking long term.
Yeah, we're looking back and they're looking forward. They're looking crazy in the future. And just a final couple of bullet points to wrap out the year, of course. I finished Monster Boy in the Chaos Kingdom.
Yes, you did. It's 20 grueling weeks later.
20 weeks with special appearance from Tom Hart a little bit near the end there as well. I needed to add that in because that was that's a really important part of my life this year. It's it saw me through a lot of stuff.
It's almost half the year that you were playing that game.
Yeah, and I could have played it for longer if it told me where to go.
Well, you can go for 100%.
No. Moving on. Finally, we've got a few more wrap-up points. Stadia is now in more countries, and like we said there, it's on iOS. And as Tom mentioned, we're looking forward to 400 games in the pipeline. And of course, Cyberpunk 2077 is the best place to play right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Within financial reason, of course. And that brings us to the end of Sounds of Stadia, episode number 66. So go execute, do it. The podcast. I don't know how I was going with that one. But what a year, gentlemen. What a year. For us, for Stadia, the community, games in general, humanity in general, let's face it. What a year indeed it's been. I'm sure next year will be much brighter and much more beautiful as well. But you'll have to wait until next week for episode 67 to find out what that even is, what that even looks like. But yes, have a great new year, everybody. Hope you've had a fantastic Christmas. Thank you once again for all of your support. If you want to start the new year with a New Year's resolution, why not head over to patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia and donate as much as $1 to buy Richie some beard trimmers so you can start the new year off with a fresh cut. Or just buy us a coffee. I don't drink coffee. But anyway, you want to support us anymore or get involved on our Discord, Patreon. Tom needs to dye his hair.
Yeah.
There's a many list of things. But we will obviously still be here for 2021 and beyond. Thank you very much. Happy New Year from me.
It's a Feliz Año Nuevo from me.
Froyer's New Year's Ya from me.
You love that one. But yeah, it's been great. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
And I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia for 2020 and beyond. Take care, everyone. All the best. Game on. Have fun. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we're out.